Shalom. Call hello, Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hasham, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen that look like the heathen. And to the Aquath that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. Now this image is from the Chosen Few picnic, but this guy was at the High Park Alumni Picnic 2023 yesterday, which I actually attended for the first time. I've gone to, like my class things. I've never gone to the alumni thing, and it happens every year. And what they do is they collect money, because they have people from all the way from class of 62, all right? And so you got all the classes, and they come back to the alumni, and they got the DJs and all that. And, we were the High Park Indians, so, and then I believe this dude is a Gadite anyway, this house here dude right here, because he shows up to all the picnics, and his beads and his and his famous tambourines, what he's known for. Big swole dude, too, all muscle bound, always dancing around. And as of years lately, he's been wearing his headdress. And he was there yesterday up on the stage with the DJs dancing around in front of the crowd, But nevertheless, that's still just folly in itself. But this video is, before I even get into what it's really about, I'm just talking about the foolishness of what they think they're doing is a good cause, because they're trying to, because what they do is they take the proceeds from the picnic and then it goes toward scholarships for certain students coming out of High Park, and things of that nature to help put them through college and this whole other thing. And you got college students making videos for the last, damn near 10 years telling you how college is a scam. All right, and a lot of the people, hell, my Uber driver the other day had a master's degree and he's driving a damn Uber. All right, he had a master's degree from Pakistan. We had an interesting conversation. I may have to make a video based upon the conversation that he and I had, because he was all pro-American until he realized that I didn't give a damn about what was going on. Then he started talking about how he really felt. But then that's another lesson. But let me go to Jeremiah 49. Then I'm going to get into the meat of this thing. This is Jeremiah 49 and 7, and it reads, "Concerning Edom, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring a calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him." And the Lord is visiting Edom in almost every fashion and way at this point, and his system is collapsing. So trying to go to school to get indoctrinated, not getting educated, but get indoctrinated, is really foolishness, because they're not teaching you any truth. All right, they're not teaching you truth at all. Matter of fact, let's go to Isaiah real quick. Isaiah 8 and 20. And it reads, "To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them." And so you're being taught lies, and that's why, and the reason why this country is failing, because there's no lights in them, because they don't follow this book. They don't follow the Lord, because the Bible actually tells you how to control a population, how to control a country and a kingdom. But yet these people, they go against everything that's biblical. So about 3.5, almost 4 years ago, somewhere around that time, I did a video called "My Three Wives," right, on the Malcolm channel, because I'm not sure if I'm gonna put this video up on Maccabean Spirit or on the Malcolm channel. I'm trying to rotate between them, because I got a message from YouTube saying that if pages aren't active, they're gonna just delete them. So because some pages I just kind of let sit, and then I'll throw something up on it every now and then. But I'm trying to rotate video, so that's why my videos are be back and forth between the channels. for that reason, trying to keep all the channels active, so they won't do that. But nevertheless, the original video was on the Malcolm channel, and and I talked about 3 women that lost their virginity to me when I was a very young man, a teenager, and how had I known and understood the importance of virginity and so and of a woman, and how that's your wife, all right. I would have done things differently. But see, we were discontinued from my heritage, and actually two of my wives were there. All right. One who knew she was a Hebrew. All right. She knew before I knew. She actually, came from, her mother was one of 2 wives. All right. All right. Because there was, she had a lot of sisters and brothers, and then she had a whole second family from her father's other wife. All right. So it was a lot of them. Okay. And, so I talked to her for a moment, briefly for a moment, because she's already had an opportunity and her chance. Matter of fact, she called me about 4 or 5 years ago and told me that she was, looking at all the things that was going on in the world. She was like, okay, I'm ready to be, she knew I was going out on the highways and byways. And she was like, okay, I'm ready to be your other wife now. How's your wife going to react to that? And I was like, well, she's probably not going to be too happy about it. It's probably not going to go over well. But we'll talk about it. And, of course, she just ran back into the world and went back with her, now she's married to some other dude. So she's no concern. I'll see her on the other side. Now, this other one, she was full of questions. And she was just so ecstatic to see me, because I knew she had been asking about me, because I've been told by people who I knew that went there. And not even thinking about it, but she just has such an intense memory on stuff, and she brought back a lot of memories, and and it was very emotional. I'm not gonna sit up and pretend that I wasn't very happy to see her, because she hugged me and we just stood there for about 2 or 3 minutes in an embrace, all right. And then we started chatting it up and talking, and then I went over, and she was class of '88, so I went over to where my tent, so I left and told her I would come back, so I went over to where my people were, and because I was a senior when she was a freshman, all right. So anyway, I ended up breaking bread with one of because a couple people that went to school with me also went to grammar school with me, were kids with me. So I'm breaking bread with them, on the truth, all right. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, one of the first things out of her mouth was that she said, "Oh, so I hear that you're a Hebrew Israelite." All right. She didn't say black. She said, I hear that you're a Hebrew Israelite. And I just kind of looked at her and I smiled and I said, well, so are you. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, whether you know it or not, whether you accept it or not. And I said, and damn near practically everybody here is. All right. But I said, well, we'll talk about that. And we exchanged information, and I gave her a card and we exchanged numbers and all that. I said, we'll chat and all that stuff, and I told her she to come by the studio, and and all that. Anyway, I went back over and I started prophesying with Steve. Steve was full of questions. Steve follows me on TikTok, all right. And so he's full of all these questions, and we're going back and forth. And he's got one foot in the world and one foot in the truth, and I just told him, it's gonna come a time where you're gonna have to stop riding the fence, and then stop going into your, let me grab a scripture on that. Stop leaning into your own understanding, man. All right. Because he even told me how he be putting people up on my videos. He was having these debates with people. And that's kind of how it starts, because a man has to be fully persuaded in his own mind, and Steve was like a brother. I mean, we grew up together, through grade school and high school, we were tight. But anyway, this is Proverbs 3:5, and it reads, trust in Yahweh with all thine heart and lean not into thine own understanding. So, you can't lean into your own understanding. All right. So after being with Steve, time is just flying by, and I'm like, man, I got to get out of here. I got to go. But, I kept prophesying. And so time went by to the point it was like, what, I might as well just stay here. So I sent, Asha messages to just come scoop me up. And but meanwhile, I started talking to Betty again because she looked up and saw me. Because the DJ started getting down, and I kind of went to the close to the dance floor. I didn't get out there and dance, but I was just vibing the music. And I turned around, and there she was staring at me, and she was like, "You're still here." And so we started talking, and after that we just didn't separate all the way up until the brother came to get me. Um, she was just right by my side, and so we went and sat down on the side of the hill, just like we used to when we were kids. And we were just talking, and she was like, "Remember when we used to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "I remember. We used to sit out across the street from the school in the park on a little hill in front of the school, and I would lay my head in her lap, and we would just talk and hang out. Of course, we didn't do that, but we was sitting there on the hill together, and I'm just breaking down all these things to her. And so let me go to Jeremiah 17:4. All right. Because she was like, "Yeah, our plan was for you when I finished high school, you were supposed to come back from the Marine Corps and marry me." That's what we were talking about when we were kids. But but we were young, we were young. But let me go to Jeremiah 17:4, and it reads, "And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thy inheritance that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thy enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever." And so I broke down to her how we've been separated from our heritage, and how when we were in school together, I had my teacher Taki Ratan in my Afro American studies, how he when he walked into the classroom, he pushed. She never knew this story, and how he pushed our book off his desk onto the floor and went to his bag and opened up his own book, And I believe that was through the Spirit of the Lord that made him do that, because it was a message to me. Nobody else in that room but just to me, and I believe that wholeheartedly. But he started proving through the books that he had, through artifacts in history, that the Israelites was indeed a dark race of people, that they were not so-called white people. All right, so I was explaining to her how I had a problem with the churches, that whole, from that point on, because no one was bringing that out. And I'm like, well, if they're going to lie to us about, the Israelites, what else are they going to lie about? Because I knew that the Lord was from the tribe of Judah. I understood that he was a Jew, according to what they say, but he was a Jew from the tribe of Judah. And that's what got Taki Ratan fired, because that subject matter came up in class, and he said, "Yeah, well, that would mean the Jesus Christ, the image that you use, that's a false image. He's really a man of color. He's a so-called black man." And the girls went home, and some of the girls went home, and some of the mothers came up there complaining about this man teaching my children. He's supposed to be teaching them history. The Bible is history. Anyway, Taki Ratan got fired, but he changed my life. All right, he really did. And 10 years later, I ended up going to a church with the Manesarite chick who happened to be there. I saw her too. And because she was from 89, so she was there after I left. All right. But anyway, I remember going to this church, and this man started teaching that the Israelites was a dark race of people, that they were a black people. And, under that 501c3 charter, you can't teach about ethnicity. He ended up losing his church. So, I'm like, damn, it's something serious to this whole Israelite thing. Every time you bring this out, this Israelite thing comes up about them not being white, but being so-called black people. All right. Still at the time, I didn't know that if they had anything to do with us, but I knew that they weren't white, and I didn't know the whole difference between black and African and all that. I hadn't come into that knowledge, although I was suspicious that, that so-called Africans didn't really like, black people in America, and they were kind of different and act different and stuff like that. But not, knowing the breakdown. I'm explaining that to her, and she's like, "Yeah, they don't," and this, that, and the other. And so she's really listening, and so I'm breaking this down to her. She never knew these things. So I read to her Deuteronomy 28:68. So let me go to that. And that's not something that women are used to, especially women that actually, so-called believe in the Bible, believe in the Lord. So a man did just start, breaking out the scriptures and reading with understanding like that. But this is Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And I read her some of the curses and asked her, honestly, what her, who does that fit? And she could, that's got to be us. But anyway, this is Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And it reads, and Yahweh shall bring, and I explained to her the name. I have my necklace that I often wear almost daily that has the name of the Lord on it. Oh, not to mention there was another brother there too from one of the other camps. He was with his wife, his wife was an alumni. So he was there with his wife. So, me and that brother broke bread, and she saw that interaction and us, communicating in Hebrew. She was just wooed by that whole thing. All right. But anyway, it says, and Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies as bondmen and bondwomen, and no one shall buy you, meaning no one shall redeem you. No one's going to save you. This is the prophecy of what was going to happen to the Israelites if they try to negate and get around or make excuses or even try to pretend that it didn't happen. This was a prophecy that had to happen to the Israelites. And, and that never happened to the Jewish people. It never happened to them. As a matter of fact, when you do your research, you find out that they owned the majority of the slave ships that took these people into, so how can you be the victim and the villain? You can't be both. You got to be one or the other. All right. So they were the villains in this case. That's just what it is. So, the conversation continues on. And she said, well, I know that there are scriptures that they removed from the Bible, so I broke down to her the Apocrypha and what it meant. And how the Apocrypha, she said it has a name, and so I explained to her. And I explained to her what the name even meant. So that means the Lord knew, for it to be called the Apocrypha, it could be because Apocrypha means to be sent away hidden. So they hid it. And I said, and that's the problem with Christianity. They have to, in order for Christianity to work, the Apocrypha had to be removed. That's why the Bible Destruction Group went to remove it. All right. So when you get to the New Testament, it says there's no difference between Greek and a Jew, then that can be misconstrued as to the Lord is for everybody now. It's not just the Israelites anymore. And that's not true, because Acts 6 and 1 and Acts 9 and 29, matter of fact, let me read Acts 6 and 1, because they both kind of say the same thing, roundabout way. But Acts 6 and 1 reads, and in those days, when the number of the disciples were multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. All right. And then I broke down to her that that word Grecian, and showed it to her that word what meant Hellenist, which was a Greek-speaking Jew. Now they could have just wrote in the Greek-speaking Jews, but they didn't write that. And that's not what they teach. So they make it seem as, you see, so the falsehood and doctrine that they purposely propagated by the way that they worded things. So it's like I explained to her every place where it says Lord, all capital letters, and then I showed it to her that it said Yahweh. They were deliberately trying to, and then they changed it to Yahweh. That they did everything in their power to hide this truth. All right. And that how our people were still into the Greek fashion, speaking about these Grecians, as I pointed out, all the bros that were out there, and all the omegas and in the different fraternities and sororities that were out there. I said our people still were cleaving unto, and then not even 5 minutes later, one of my guys that came up with me, who's big time bros, big time Q-Dog, Q-Lirius, he walked right up on me. He stopped and embraced me. He was out there promoting his ice cream stuff, but he's also alumni. And he knew her too, because he remembered when we were together. Everyone did, and so he and it's the Lord. It's funny how the Lord sends you examples right on time, Yahya walks up, But anyway, and then I explained to her heaven was going to be here on earth, and that our people have been Hellenized, and I said, look. Here are 3 of the reasons that Christianity removed the Bible. All right. And number 1, I said, God, the Lord, all capitals, Yahweh, he doesn't love everyone. All right. Without the Apocrypha, they were able to easily push and preach that God loves everybody doctrine, because without the understanding of the what happened during the Grecian captivity, they jump right to Rome and then try to understand everything with that 400-year history of the Grecian captivity being removed. All of a sudden, there's no difference between Jew and Greek. They don't understand the Hellenization and the Israelites becoming Greekish. Probably half or more than half of them. All right, versus the ones who cleaved unto their heritage. So the ones who cleaved unto their heritage had enmity or problems with the ones who were following after Greekish fashion. All right, and looked at them as a persona non grata, and looked at them as if they were not Israelites anymore, if they were not Hebrews anymore. And then the Lord came on the scene, and his disciples and Paul was like, no, there should be, because among them are some of the Lord's elect. And that's what this is all about. All right, I explained that to her. I said they also removed, the Lord's bloodline connection to the house of David to present universal love. And I said, and so how did they do that? By disconnecting him from the house of David, by disconnecting him from Joseph and saying that an angel impregnated Mary when Joseph did. All right, because it gives you his bloodline, from sperm, from father to father, from seed to seed, all the way up to Joseph, to him. And then the Lord tells you in, I believe it's Revelations 22 and 16, the very end, 22 and 16, I do believe. Call her law. Yep, and it says, I, Yahweh Shai, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and offspring of David and the bright and morning star. So the Lord tells you himself. He is the offspring of David, just like it tells you in the Bible. Isaiah the 11th chapter, it just tells you, and Luke the 3rd chapter, Matthew the 1st chapter is breaking down the sperm line. He is of the house of David, and you cannot have the kingdom of heaven without the house of David. The two go hand in hand. So she's just sitting there tripping, because she had just professed she's a Christian. She's still a Christian, and I said, well, and I told her what we all say. Everybody's a Christian until the scriptures come out. I said, yeah, I was once called myself a Christian too. All right. And then number 3 is that he had the Edomite connection to today's whites. And I explained to her, in 1681, the Edomites began calling themselves, white. All right. Caucasian and white. So, every so many hundred years, the Edomites changed their name, because they've been trying to run from the fact that they're that vagabond that's fugitive from justice. Let me see if I can find that real quick and close it out. Because the Lord said he would have enmity with Amalek from generation to generation. But Christianity has taught that the Edomites are done away with. So they did all these convenient things to hide themselves. But they can't. All right? They can't hide themselves. They're exposed now. Jeremiah 49. This is Genesis 4 and 14. Let me go ahead and highlight that. I should have had that highlighted. And 12. I'll read them both. I started 12. And it reads, when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth her strength, a fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And the earth doesn't yield forth its strength to them today. That's why they have problems growing food, and why they use all these chemicals and all this other stuff, and have to and they've messed up the food with GMOs and all that other mess and pesticides, because the earth refuses to yield its strength to them. All right, and so they try to chemically do it, and basically everyone's getting sick as a result of it. And it says, behold, verse 14, Genesis 4 and 14, behold, thou hast been driven, Salakia, behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. So, Esau Edom is that fugitive and vagabond from earth that everyone has found out. The Lord has removed that veil, that covering. As a matter of fact, let's make that the last scripture. All right, let's read that one and I'll close this thing out. This Isaiah 25:7. And it reads, and he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people and the veil that is spread over all nations. All right, so with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Makakwadash, Wa Abba Babal, Kwam Yasur Shalom.